We should be live. We should be live now. Just a second, let me get the video, let me get the live stream up on my monitor. Oh. Should be live. Yeah, I can hear myself, that's good. Okay, 1 second. Ta-da, there we are. Hello everyone. I'm gonna first welcome everybody in who's joining us on the Zoom. So just 1 second. Admit all. There we are. Open the floodgates. There they are. The rogues gallery of composition around the world. Welcome. Welcome everyone.
Hello.
Look at this.
Hi.
What a beautiful array of creativity. Hi everyone. I hope you can hear me. Can you give a thumbs up if you can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, several thumbs.
Good.
Not all the thumbs, but anyway. And I presume that we're okay on YouTube. Brian and Stefan, can you just say hi so I can get confirmation?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi everybody.
Hello everyone.
All right, brilliant. I'll just wait for somebody to confirm or deny that they can hear us. So yeah, let's crack on. Welcome to everybody that's here with us on Zoom. It's good to see you all. We have some people, I think, possibly that we're seeing for the first time. I see some very familiar faces as well, which is always nice. Thanks for all your submissions. We're going to just start with introducing our experts for the evening, who most people are already familiar with, but just in case we've got some new viewers, which we hope we have. Brian, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Okay. My name is Brian. I work at Leeds Conservatoire, where I teach on the film music undergraduate degree, and that's the degree that I wrote about 7 or 8 years ago. I teach there as a principal lecturer. I'm also deputy head of the school that film music's in, and I also still manage to get my hands dirty in the industry occasionally as well.
Excellent. Stefan?
Hi, yeah, I'm Stefan Gordon. I'm principal lecturer at Leeds Conservatoire. I work with Brian on the film music pathway. I teach film studies, film theories, also music production, and also do some industry work as well.
Excellent, thank you. And I just want to say that we have recently published on YouTube an interview that I did with Brian and his colleague Andy about the work of Leeds Conservatoire, a little 15-minute chat, so I recommend that, really interesting. And I also want to say, perhaps some of you recognise this. Put something in the comments below if you recognise where this is from. No spoilers, please, Stefan and Brian.
You get bonus points.
Bonus points for recognising this.
Bonus points, yeah.
There we are. All right, so hopefully the audio's okay. Oh, it seems like we're good. Okay, so welcome to everyone. So this is something that we do monthly. Just a very quick preamble. So what we do is we open up the opportunity for composers to submit a piece of music for one of our films, and then we close the submissions and we do this live feedback on some of the selections of those, and then everybody else gets written feedback via email from Brian and Stefan. And we give away a string quartet session to one of the submitting composers, and we also give away a sample library from Practice Sound. So we'll be doing that during the course of this live stream today. I think that basically covers the bases. So, Brian, you wanted to give some general observations first, I think, about the submissions this time, yeah?
Yeah, I think me and Steph wanted to have just a quick. We often do this, like you said, just a quick overview. This film that everybody did this time was particularly challenging. I just want to say that right off the bat. It was difficult to do. There was almost wall-to-wall dialogue, off-screen dialogue, narration, which is always presents issues. And what we did find on quite a lot of them, I mean not all of them by any means, but quite a lot of the 50-odd that we looked at, is that a lot of it was, some of it was really great music, by the way. I mean, there was some corking music out there. It didn't fare often as well as film music. It often had difficulties fitting in behind the dialogue and behind the film. I like I put here, I put most of what I listened to was good music, and some of it was great. But in a lot of cases, the music sometimes felt like it was just what we might call in attendance. It was there as well as the film, but just obviously there's a difference between film music and just music in film. And that's not a criticism, by the way, because it was a really hard film, and I wouldn't have wanted to do this myself. And whenever you tried to put ideas down, they always seemed to be tripping over something and getting in the way of some dialogue or whatever. So yeah, that was just an opening thing that, like me and Steph often say in these masterclasses, that at all costs, what you're writing has to work with the film. Because when people are listening to your music, they're not listening to it as music really, and you know they're listening to it for the emotion it brings to a film. Very few people are going to turn around and say, "Oh, that was a great chord sequence. I love those. I love that chord sequence or whatever. I love those inversions." You know, a director, what the director's going to do is basically say, "Does this work?" And there's a difference between good music in a film and music that works in a film. So this is not a criticism; it's just an observation, really. Steph, did you want to?
Yeah, no, I mean, similar point. I think Brian's covered most of it, but just to add in, I think it was really difficult. I mean, obviously when we're going through them, and as I started to go through the ones that I was looking at, I could see the sort of continuing problem through all of them, and a lot of it sort of stemmed from the film itself, just because there is very little space. And also there's and we talked about this last time, so there's the voiceover, which is creating a tempo and a rhythm, and then you've got the editing, which is also creating a tempo and a rhythm. So there's two things at play here, and so you've got to fit your music around that. So what was also good, just to sort of make this point as well, is that when reading your notes on it, so when you put your notes on there for us to look at, it's great because we can see your vision for it. And you know, obviously everyone's got their different way of doing that. Some are quite long, some are quite short, but quite a few, the reason I mentioned that in the notes, people would say this was a challenge. So I got a real sense that people were struggling with this clip in general. And I can see why it was very tricky to do, because there was very little space. And as Brian says, I think one of the things to try and sort of keep in mind, and we talk about this a lot in these sessions, is that of course your job is your composers, your musicians, but with film music you have to take a bit of a sort of sidestep for that as well, because you're also you're contributing to the film, so you're part of that filmmaking process as well. So what, as Brian pointed out, is that was some great music, but one of the problems I could get a real sense of, that you were thinking too musically quite a few of the times, rather than thinking in a sort of filmic sense. So to try and sort of take a little bit of a step back, I think the more you do of, and that's why this is great, because you're getting the practice to do it, and the more you do of this, I think the stronger you'll get at it. But what tends to be happening, and this one was really tricky, is that you were sort of thinking about the music rather than about the film. Not all of them. I mean, we've got a selection to look at this evening, all different takes on it, which is great, and we can talk about it and get a sort of sense of different approaches. But I would, in general, I think that was one of the sort of issues that came up. But it is one of the great downers of being a film composer, actually, or for any moving image, is that you're never truly free to write what you want. I've done lots of work, and many things I've done, and I've never want to hear it again. But often the director said, "Well, that works fine." I'm thinking, well, that's hideous music actually, but it works fine, and that often underpins that you don't always get what you want. You can't always walk away from a project thinking the director's happy and so am I. In fact, it's very rare that's happened to me actually, where I've walked away from a project thinking musically I'm really happy with that.
and so is the director. So it's one of the downers of the industry, and it's just the way it is, you know.
Yeah. But it's like an art form in itself, isn't it? This, the film music, because you're doing it under someone else's guidance and vision as well. So you can never, and you know, you might go, this sounds great to me, and then in comes the director and go, actually that's completely wrong.
Yeah.
And so it can be a frustrating process. But I thought musically some of the submissions were actually really, really great.
Yeah.
But the problem was is that, as we've said, it's sort of getting it to sit comfortably.
And often you'll find that I think we talked about this in a masterclass, that when you look at a film, it's best to try and conceptualize first and think, right, what kind of music would work? What kind of music should I avoid? What should it look like? What should it sound like? What kind of textures should it have? You do all this before you ever go anywhere near a piano. And I'm not suggesting that anybody did the opposite. I'm just saying that often if you do what we call reactionary composing and just literally steaming in there and playing, it sometimes doesn't always work. And the more legwork you do in the beginning, by looking at the film, reading the film, making notes about at what second does that little title card come, at what second does that really weird game sound appear, you know, because I've got to make sure I avoid that. I've got to make sure I don't write over that, or if I do write over it, I write something that works with it. And I did notice there were a few embedded sounds in the actual soundtrack itself that some people were writing around it, but some people were just ploughing through it. And it's very difficult. I mean, this was, I think, one of the most difficult ones I've seen. So, yeah. Great, Brian.
I feel guilty now. I feel guilty. I'll do something easier next month.
Yeah, it's all Brian's fault.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, I just want to say, in my defence, Your Honour, that I think that, you know, the fact that these things are difficult and that we're seeing often a persistence of similar things that need working on, let's put it that way, month after month. I think that's almost the raison d'etre, really, of the Q-Tube, is the ability to sort of iron these things out. And you know, if everybody was doing a perfect job, there'd be no purpose really for what we're doing. So you know, that's my defence.
No, that's the point of these sessions,
yeah.
isn't it? I mean,
absolutely. Yeah.
Just to try stuff out. To see, and just get. And as I was saying before, I think the more you do of it, the more you'll get a real sort of. You get the real flow and understanding of your own process as well. I
mean, the bit of the films that were almost universally good was the ending, the last little credit roll, because it had no talking in it, and you guys were free to just let loose. And when you got to those bits, I'm like, this is really motoring now, and it's just when you go back to the actual words, it's just difficult. But like Brian says, this is the way it is sometimes in the industry. You know, in the industry, if you're getting work, if you're lucky, you'll get some projects where there's plenty of space and there's plenty of things to write behind and all the rest of it. You know, get some good documentaries with a lot of open space, and then you'll get stuff like this, which when you look at it, it's almost impossible. But then you will find a way through it. I mean, like people do.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling when I was sort of making this clip was that the voice and indeed the edits are really, as you've said, really, they're setting the tempo. And so we wanted to sort of dictate, as it were, to the composers that this is going to be something fairly dynamic, you know, fairly energetic, but also it's got that little sardonic edge to it, you know, and it was quite important, I think, that came out. And also, I felt that unlike some scenes that you can look at even in films that are out there, you know, like proper films, you see certain scenes where there's no music and you're just like, yeah, it doesn't need music, you know, it really stands on its own 2 feet. And Stefan and I are often talking about this, how little music there is often in films. But I felt that with this one, like when I was making it, I really felt that the music was going to be a really important part of setting that tone of sort of dynamism, energy, the modern world, fast-paced, you know, economics, finance, and all of that sort of stuff. And this kind of slightly dark, but slightly comedic undertone as well. So I felt that the music was really needed, and without the music, it didn't quite have those qualities.
Darren's just. Sorry, just to say, Darren's just made a really important point on the chat. about the narration and the words. If you want to look at that, Brian, just quickly about he felt that there was some a change in dynamic to the sound of that halfway through that might have been challenging. By the way, Brian, just to let you know, I don't know if this is affecting YouTube, the YouTube spin or what, but when you're talking, we're sometimes getting this message comes up saying Brian Waters' network's bandwidth is low, and your picture goes small, and it goes. I don't know if that's affecting the guys on YouTube that are watching it that way. I don't know if that affects them or not, but if it does, I'm just letting you know.
Okay, thanks. I mean, I've not seen any.
Just
go on.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just going to say one last point I was going to make before we start having a look at the films is voiceover. It's really tricky because I mean dialogue's one thing, but voiceover is another level. Actually, it's a level. Because writing a dialogue over a dialogue scene is difficult enough, but voiceover is even more.
Yeah.
And I remember this from my film student days, and one of our tutors saying, and I'll always remember that. Essentially, may well have said it before, but it's like the filmmaker whispering in your ear, and I've always remembered it because it's like it's the way that they're communicating to you. So it has to be crystal clear.
It's funny that, Steph, because this is something that I cover in the first year classes very early on when we talk about if you're writing over dialogue, you've got to be very careful. But if your dialogue is on the screen and you can see someone's lips moving, it is fractionally easier for a composer because the listener can see the lips and they can see people talking. Off-screen narration is an extra bit harder because the listener can't see that person talking, so they've got to concentrate on this person talking. They haven't got the normal picture of the person's lips moving, and then they've got music as well, and that's when it gets very problematic and very difficult. But like Brian said, it's all part of the gig.
Because it's, and I think I have said this before, but what it is it's his director's aesthetic choice to use it as well, because quite often, a director will not go near voice if they don't like it, and then others who obviously rely on it. So it's an aesthetic. So when that director's made that aesthetic choice, everyone's going to stick to it. That's the point.
I mean, it's
it is your fault, Brian.
Yeah, no, I take that, but I come back to you with the riposte that it's not untypical to have a monologue like that. I would prefer to call it a monologue rather than a narration, and it's not unusual. I can think of many films that have got something like that. Like a Guy Ritchie opener or something like that. It's not particularly unusual.
Well, also all the Attenborough documentaries. I mean, they're all made like that. It's all off-screen narration all the way through, and that's why they are challenging as well. And sometimes, as a composer, the only way you can get around this is to avoid fast music. Is to there's an old saying that if someone's talking and you're playing a load of fast music, you're also talking as well. And you're talking a different language. Whereas if you're writing kind of long chords, then that will effortlessly kind of key into the scene. But of course, this film didn't really suit itself to long, drawn-out chords. So that was the problem, really. Anyway,
Tom just mentioned Blade Runner, actually.
Yeah.
Like a whole debate about Blade Runner and the fact that Ridley Scott was like, that was forced on him. He never even wanted that because the studio was like, no one understands this film.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you have a voice. So I mean, it's definitely an aesthetic choice. Do you want to?
Yeah, let's crack on.
We crack on.
Some films.
Oh, I just want to say before we start, actually, to the people that are here with us on Zoom, if you want to hear better audio quality of when Stefan's playing the videos, then I would suggest that you flip over and listen to. It's on YouTube because it will be actually better audio quality than it will be on Zoom, if that makes any sense. So you'll hear a little bit of a strange kind of artifacts when you listen on Zoom, but on YouTube it will be much cleaner. But there'll be a lag. There'll be a slight lag, unfortunately. But anyway, Stefan, over to you.
Okay. Right. Okay. So we've picked out 6 show this evening. So we're going to start with Adrian van Neerkoek. If I just cue this up. Okay. hopefully be able to see this.
Ah, the big city with its irresistible allure. The siren song we call opportunity. Where there's opportunity, there's competition. Where there's competition, there are winners and there are losers. The winners create the losers, and the losers create the winners in the great dance of the dollar. A miserable merry-go-round that binds us all, but nobody acknowledges. The hidden game where everybody is a player. Enter our hero, Greg. Greg's a winner. In his own world, he's a hero. Heck, he's got the penthouse, the car, the gold-plated, handmade Belgian import bespoke bidet to prove it. Friends? Leisure time? A conscience? Who needs it, right, Greg? Those things are for losers. Those things are for the rest of us. Well, Greg, old buddy, the times are changing. The ordinary folks, the ones at the bottom, those losers you like to talk about, they've had enough and they're taking charge. So enjoy your bidet while you can. Measuring success in dollars and cents, well, that, I'm afraid, is, as they say, for the birds.
Great. Okay, as I go first, Steph.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, I think this is really good. I mean, I've put it is a really quirky beginning with lots of kind of quasi-comedic woodwind writing, very inventive and very convincing. Stuff like the bassoon, like bum, 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 and all that stuff. Very, very worked really well. Quite abstract in places as well, harmonically, which equates possibly to the alien world of the corporate world of finance and all the rest of it. Great decision to use the soprano sax, which speaks to the kind of modernity of it all. Around 36 seconds, we get this lovely little chord trick, which hopefully you can hear that piano.
Yeah.
Where the composer goes. Okay, and then right at the end of the B chord, I'll play that again. And then he puts the sharp 4 in there, gives it this really nice kind of like filmy kind of edge. That's good writing. I mean, that's great writing. There's also around 52 when the man kicks the no money, no job sign. Those things are for losers. Again, this is accompanied by a really effective, quirky kind of atonal arpeggiation thing on the woodwinds. The game over bit, about 1 minute and 3, has got a suitably quirky woodwind flourish. 109, when he mentions measuring success in dollars and cents, has a really effective section with a flute playing this fast-moving piece with a bass underneath. Really good. And also a little bit reminiscent of the also sax solo in Catch Me If You Can. I don't know if anybody remembers. John Williams has scored to Catch Me If You Can, but it's got this amazing alto sax, what people think is a jazz solo, but it's actually written out. The only piece of criticism I would say on this is, in general, the music is a little bit too loud. It's not as loud as a lot of them were, but it is still a little bit too loud. Some sections you get away with it due to the skill of the writing. The writing is skillful, and sometimes you will get away with that. And also the dubbing isn't too bad either. But there are a few sections where it's sometimes hard to decipher clearly what's being said. But great writing. I mean, fantastic writing. And given how abstract and weird and quirky the writing is, it's amazing that you've got away with what you have, actually. And I think that's a testament to the writing and to the dubbing as well. So that's me for that one, Steph.
Yeah, similar points. I really like this. It really does, after that long discussion we had at the beginning, I thought it was just a kind of example where I thought the music was great for this, actually. Based on the notes, so without reading all the notes out, but the end bit that Adrian's put was that a world that is out of touch with the rest of humanity. In essence, the quirkiness of the score is intended to make fun of Greg and his ideals, and I thought you really captured that in the music. there was a great energy to it, and I thought that your vision for this was really, really strong. And I think Brian and I often talk about, conceptualizing, and this was a really good example of it. Similar points that Brian's made. I thought the production actually was really, because it's not easy to do. With those woodwinds and stuff to make it sound convincing. I thought that was really well done, and it's really well crafted. I suppose my criticism was that, saying to what Brian said, I thought that sometimes because the voiceover's got some really key words, and I thought there was some, even though the mix was too loud, I think even if it had been taken down, some of the frequencies of the woodwind would perhaps get in the way of some of the words. So I thought it could have been stripped back in places. I mean, I did note down, I thought some of the issues could be solved with mix levels, but I didn't think there was a tendency to, maybe with some of the woodwind, that a bit of overwriting. But I thought it was really enjoyable. I just thought there was a real energy to it. And then that again, what we said at the beginning, it's really evident when there was no voiceover at the end about how much of a sort of some great writing there was in this piece. So yeah, no, really enjoyed it. But just be mindful of writing around the voice. But well done, good stuff.
Excellent.
Okay, should we move on
number
to
two?
the
Yeah.
next? Yeah. So we've got Jameson Toby.
Jameson Toby. Excellent.
Go. We can all do that.
The big city with its irresistible allure. The siren song we call opportunity. Where there's opportunity, there's competition. Where there's competition, there are winners and there are losers. The winners create the losers, and the losers create the winners in the great dance of the dollar. A miserable merry-go-round that binds us all, but nobody acknowledges. The hidden game where everybody is a player. Enter our hero, Greg. Greg's a winner. In his own world, he's a hero. Heck, he's got the penthouse, the car, the gold-plated, handmade Belgian import bespoke bidet to prove it. Friends? Leisure time? A conscience? Who needs it, right, Greg? Those things are for losers. Those things are for the rest of us. Well, Greg, old buddy, the times are changing. The ordinary folks, the ones at the bottom, those losers you like to talk about, they've had enough and they're taking charge. So enjoy your bidet while you can. Measuring success in dollars and cents, well, that, I'm afraid, is, as they say, for the birds.
Okay, I thought this was excellent. I really did. I thought this was first class from beginning to end. I've put in that it featured some excellent and really well conceptualized music. There was a strong idea behind this. It wasn't just music, but when you listen to this music, you can really sense an idea for the music, a concept. It had a real obvious Clint Eastwood, Ennio Morricone vibe to it, which I think just works a treat. Very strong with a whistled melody. You get that thing, I think that's how it went. And it's really strong melody all the way through it. And he's got this, on that little melody bit, I'll just take it up an octave, and then what he does with the chords, he goes like G minor, going to B flat. And it's that, I think we talked about this little chord trick in one of the master classes. It's a very uplifting chord trick when you go from a minor chord to a relative major. So if I go back to strings, G minor, you'll find that major to relative minor is a very regular traditional chord trick. You get it in every song ever written. But minor chord to relative major, B, in this case G minor to B flat, has got this real uplifting feel. And that's what typified the Morricone scores for all the spaghetti westerns. They all had that real life-affirming kind of thing. So at the bit where it goes, the times are changing. This bit works because the music has a slightly dissonant edge to it. It goes all a bit atonal, and that works really well. About 1 minute, there's another great chord trick. If I can just go back to the piano, which is where he goes, the chord. And that's a really, really strong chord trick. I think what makes this clip work and the music work is, although the ideas are they're really great and everything, they're actually quite long ideas. You know, it isn't just full of little snippets of music. It's basically full of some 2 or 3 really strong ideas, and because the ideas are quite elongated, it sits underneath the dialogue a lot easier than it would be with some of the other clips where the music is kind of all over the place. The music works as music, but it also works as film music because of the obvious context it brings with the kind of Clint Eastwood thing and the instrumentation and textures. Very well written and very well executed. There are 1 or 2 moments where the music does overpower. The bit at the end is very loud, but the dialogue is mainly closed down at the end, but there's a bit where they cross over, and I think the music is a little bit too overpowering there. But a really great piece. So well done.
Similar points. I really like this as well. And the first thing I thought of with it was Morricone as well. Was the same thing. This was. Well, I said this earlier about reading people's notes up front, and Jameson put in the notes about that it was presented with some challenges, and I hadn't previously considered a real balancing act. It required to support both the humour and the darkness without undermining either. And I think definitely you made that work within the clip. I thought it was really inspired, actually, and a great piece of music. I think this, similar to what we've been saying, I think there was moments where I just thought it sort of overwhelmed the film. I mean, it definitely worked with it, but there was, so I think it's structure here. So, and when it all starts to build and then the drums come in, and I thought the stuff with the drums was really good actually as a piece of music, but I thought actually the voiceover's still going at that point. So I thought actually that maybe it just needed reshaping, because I felt like the actual end credits section was the moment when that could have been built. So maybe the structure needed kind of looking at for this piece. But I thought there was really, really great energy in it. My only other thing as well that I noted down, and it comes back to the same point about voiceover, because I thought the whistling stuff was really inspired actually, but there is a but, and I think having whistling and a voiceover, I started to think, I was just from a directing perspective and put my filmmaker's head on that there's a possibility. If you think about those great Morricone scores working with Sergio Leone, that stuff, there's kind of minimum dialogue in them, and they're sort of big close-ups and all the rest of it. The images are really bold, so it kind of worked. But when you've got all this voiceover, fast editing, and all that kind of whistling, that kind of sort of style, then it's potentially that bit more problematic. But having said that, really kind of an inspired piece. So well done. Enjoyed it. Okay, so should we move on to the next one?
Yeah.
And next up we have Kate. And
Kate.
Kate's with us as well.
She almost choked on a drink there.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Good timing. Good timing, Stefan.
Okay, let's cue up Kate's.
Here we go, Kate.
Oh, right. Okay. Hopefully You can all see that.
Yeah.
Right, here we go.
Ah, the big city with its irresistible allure. The siren song we call opportunity. Where there's opportunity, there's competition. Where there's competition, there are winners and there are losers. The winners create the losers, and the losers create the winners in the great dance of the dollar. A miserable merry-go-round that binds us all, but nobody acknowledges. The hidden game where everybody is a player. Enter our hero, Greg. Greg's a winner. In his own world, he's a hero. Heck, he's got the penthouse, the car, the gold-plated, handmade Belgian import bespoke bidet to prove it. Friends? Leisure time? A conscience? Who needs it, right, Greg? Those things are for losers. Those things are for the rest of us. Well, Greg, old buddy, the times are changing. The ordinary folks, the ones at the bottom, those losers you like to talk about, they've had enough and they're taking charge. So enjoy your bidet while you can. Measuring success in dollars and cents, well, that, I'm afraid, is, as they say, for the birds.
Great. Okay.
Hang on. Sorry, the end bit.
Sorry.
Right. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Great. That was. I'm sorry about coming in too soon. This was excellent. This was just first class all the way through. If you find a piece of music that ends up being really good, you'll find that there's, like we've talked about this already, you'll find that there's a strong concept behind it. It's almost inconceivable that you'll find a good film cue that doesn't, at its heart, have something going on. And what I feel with this cue in total is it's got this great idea of mischief. It's just got this Danny Elfman kind of Steve Bartek style, quirky, mischievous thing going all the way. And of course it works brilliantly with the kind of dynamic of the film. I mean, the introduction, the F minor motif where he's going the that kind of thing, that is classic kind of Danny Elfman kind of quirky, thing that works on so many of his films. And it works on this for very different reasons. This is essentially quite a dark film, but it works really well. The Danny Elfman stuff is just so good. The woodwinds are used really well, particularly the bassoons again. We've heard them before. These work really well, establishing this vague feeling of comedy, but also menace. I keep coming back to this mischief and menace. This is what this music says to me, and it underpins this guy, Greg, perfectly well. You also managed to hit points really well, such as the bit where it says you win, and the other bits which are difficult to acknowledge. You also, sorry, beg your pardon, there's some existing sounds in the film which not everybody managed to accommodate, and you accommodated them really well, and you've written round them and kind of brought them into your music. The bit where the Queen is winking comes into play there. When we see Greg, I think you bring something akin, basically bring the theremin in. And to bring the theremin in when we get Greg is just a masterstroke, because it's a symbolism. It's not just the instrument, it's a symbolism of what this means. It's very difficult to listen to a theremin without part of your brain going back to movies from the 50s and 60s about, the day the earth stood still, Bernard Herrmann and people like that. And that's what you've done here. By simply using an instrument, you've basically unlocked a part of people's brains that locates that. So in a way, this kind of sub-level of kind of context exists underneath your music, and the theremin just opens the floodgates in people's minds when they're listening to this. Your music works so well with the film, it generates exactly the right kind of emotion, and it benefits this clip hugely, which proves that it can be written. It can be written for. You sync the music up really well, and the important bits come through really well. It just sounds effortless, and it is not effortless. I realise it's not effortless, but the key to, the hallmark of great music is that it sounds effortless. If you listen to John Williams, E.T. and stuff like that, the beauty is that he makes stuff that's insanely complicated and complex and difficult to structure, and he makes it sound like it's your best friend, you know. And so I think this is a superb piece of writing. So very well done.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot, you know, certainly at the beginning about this, and this is a great example where you feel like with film music, it's like, oh, you've got to be, you know, your music's got to be heard. It has, of course, but it's got to be heard with the film. In other words, it's got to belong to the film, and that's what that was the knack that you really sort of pulled off here, where this music felt like it belonged to this film. So and as Brian said, you know, it can be done. And you've proved it can be done, because it just sat really, really naturally from the start. I mean, the Danny Elfman stuff was, you know, straight away that's what I thought, and you turned it into a kind of Tim Burton. You know, I thought, you know, rather than thinking of Danny Elfman, I was like, this is a Tim Burton film. And so this is the power of film music, because, and as Brian mentioned about unleashing what the power of music can do, it unleashed that stylistically. I was like, oh, you know, this could work as a Tim Burton type project, actually.
Yeah.
This thing of isolation, or, you know, not fitting in, all that stuff. I thought, you know what, this was really, and the use of the theremin, that was like, because it took a while before that came in. I was like, that was the icing on the cake. I thought that, you know, so inspired. And I tell you what else, just really quickly, that I really liked about this was reading your notes, Kate, because you said, and I think this is one of the tricks why I think this managed to make this work, is that you said you wrote the music around the gaming sound effects, and you treated them as another instrument, those sound effects. That exactly, and I think that's what you have to do with the voiceover as well. It's the same thing. I said this when we were discussing the Mia's World stuff about having it as a lead vocal. I think using the game sounds as an instrument, working around that was totally why this worked for me. And I thought the punctuation that you put in place around that was absolutely spot on. So yeah, very well, and great production as well. That on top of all that, it's not just to underestimate all that writing, is to make that work in terms of production. So yeah, excellent job.
Just really quickly, just to on the back of what something Stefan said, you know, that it did feel like the music was born at the same time as the film. It really felt like the two came along at the same time. And with music, it's so difficult because you've got to convince people almost from the first note you write. If the first few chords you write end up being dodgy, it's a hell of a job trying to get people back on the side. But when I heard this and you came in with the straight away, I was just like, yeah, this is Wolf of Wall Street meets Nightmare Before Christmas. You know, it's like straight away you're in that zone, and straight away it's Danny Elfman, and then your bassoons, and then your theremin, and you're like, whoa. So that, yeah, brilliant, well done. Thank you.
I mean, I just want to add that I'm really grateful that you proved that my task wasn't impossible. Thank you, Kate.
You're not out of the woods yet.
Thank God, I'm off the hook. That's it, I'm off the hook now. But yeah, no, it was great. It just struck me when I was listening to it and listening to your feedback that I think, you know, one of the reasons that it works is that it's almost like you kind of guessed, if you like, for want of a better word, or understood what the director, the creator of the piece was actually trying to convey, you know. And I think that to some extent the composer's got to be almost clairvoyant to try and understand what the director's trying to say, and sort of use musical language to do that. And I think that was achieved. So well done, Kate. Do you want to give us a little bit of an insight from your side as to sort of how you went about it, what you think about the feedback, which composers, if any, were particularly inspiring you?
I wasn't actually thinking Danny Elfman, but I guess, you know, the instrument choices kind of made it sound that way. There were bits that I've mixed down a bit low, where I'm actually doubling the sound effects. Quite a lot of them, you can't really hear that because I was conscious of not wanting it generally to be too loud. But yeah, it was a really fun one to do. And thank you very much for all the nice comments.
Excellent.
It was really good.
Thank
really,
you.
Really good.
Thank you for submitting. Thank you to everybody for submitting. And thanks for joining us. So, Stefan, who's next? Oh, I just want to say, actually,
okay.
by the way, I just want to say, sorry to interrupt you there, Stefan, mid-flow.
Right.
One of the things that we're thinking about doing in the future is a kind of extended version of this feedback that people can get on a kind of one-to-one basis, or maybe small groups of 2 or 3 of you together. That would be a sort of paid extra thing that we could do, because I know that some of you like to take the feedback from these sessions and then kind of rework your piece along the lines of the kind of guidance and feedback that's been given. And if you wanted to get feedback on your reworked piece, for example, that would be a way to maybe get that done. So if you're interested in something like that, put your thumbs up if you're on the Zoom, or let us know in the comments underneath on YouTube. You know, something Brian, Stefan and myself have been talking about. So it depends on whether that's something people would be interested in, really. Stefan, over to you.
Yeah, excellent. Right. Okay, so next up we have Magnus Hexenberg. Okay,
Excellent.
you this up? Okay, here we go.
Ah, the big city with its irresistible allure. The siren song we call opportunity. Where there's opportunity, there's competition. Where there's competition, there are winners and there are losers. The winners create the losers, and the losers create the winners in the great dance of the dollar. A miserable merry-go-round that binds us all, but nobody acknowledges. The hidden game where everybody is a player. Enter our hero, Greg. Greg's a winner. In his own world, he's a hero. Heck, he's got the penthouse, the car, the gold-plated, handmade Belgian import bespoke bidet to prove it. Friends? Leisure time? A conscience? Who needs it, right, Greg? Those things are for losers. Those things are for the rest of us. Well, Greg, old buddy, the times are changing. The ordinary folks, the ones at the bottom, those losers you like to talk about, they've had enough and they're taking charge. So enjoy your bidet while you can. Measuring success in dollars and cents, well, that, I'm afraid, is, as they say, for the birds.
Okay, right. Again, this was a good one. Interesting soundtrack which injects some humour into it. Music definitely helps the story and adds to the overall kind of corporate and slightly tongue-in-cheek feel. Some of the on-screen sonic moments, like the game stuff, were very difficult to accommodate into this music, texturally, I think, more than anything else. And also there were a few bits where the music simply motored on and didn't really accommodate the on-screen stuff as well as some have. Similar to the last piece, it was. I mean, the composer had played it long rather than do loads of little bits and squash them all together. This was essentially a proper long piece of music. When you get that bit that says "Enter our hero, Greg," that probably could have been handled a little bit better. The music seemed to continue through that statement and go over the dialogue, and that is a general kind of like, you know, kiss of death if you ignore those moments or you don't acknowledge them properly. The ending was good, and again, mostly because the dialogue was out, so the music was on its own and it was able to work without any narration and dialogue. Dubbing was okay, and you managed to compose music which is heard and didn't always distract. I think where it wasn't up to the standard of the other similar piece like this is that texturally it wasn't quite as finessed as the last clip. But a good piece of music. So well done.
Yes, a similar point. I some of this reminded me of Kate's as well, in kind of the sort of upbeatness and the energy to it. And I thought there was a kind of real it sort of brought it to life actually. And one of the things as well when I looked at this piece and Magnus's notes that was written was that it focused on what we said last time, and it said, I like the way you described in the last session about that the narration should be treated as a soloist. So you were kind of mindful, Dr. Magnus was kind of mindful of treating this in the right way, and you could sense that of writing around it. But so maybe didn't quite come off was that whilst you were trying to write around the music, there was less sort of written around the editing, so I felt that it sort of disrupted the flow of it a little bit. But I did really enjoy this, because I thought there was a real sort of you inputted quite a bit of energy into this piece, and that is really evident at the end as well, and to sort of bring out the kind of strong spirit in the kind of message that was there as well. But I would sort of say that I thought you were totally on the right lines with the kind of the overall vision, but I felt perhaps you just needed to do that bit more of shaping it around the tempo, and so that you're not dictating the tempo, let the film do that. And I think just so you were on the way to getting it right, but I think just a bit more sort of craft around the punctuation, but an enjoyable piece. So well done.
Excellent, thank you. We are joined actually just now by Mr. Jameson Whistler Toby, whose whistling has been admired by people in the YouTube chat. So Jameson, would you like to whistle something for us, or did you hear your feedback? Welcome. Did you hear your feedback?
Hey, I did. Thanks so much, everybody. I'm shocked that you guys like my whistling. I thought that was going to be the weak point.
We love it.
I told somebody in the chat I had to layer about 4 or 5 whistles to make it sound decent. So, and a lot of reverb.
There you go. Your whistling could have a future.
It sounded convincing. I didn't notice there was a lot of layers actually. It sounded good.
Oh, good. Appreciate that. Thank you.
What was your? Can you remember the spark of what inspired you to approach it that way at all?
With the whistle.
Yeah, and the vibe. The vibe in general.
The vibe in general. I just wanted to keep it light, kind of comical. And I tried the melody on some other instruments, and it just didn't. It didn't work as well, and so I just decided I'm going to whistle this and see what happens, and then it took me down that path.
Yeah, cool.
That was a good choice to do it, because you pointed out about, was it an old school drum machine as well that you used?
Yeah, right. Again, I was trying to make it sound a little bit goofy, and bring some acoustic elements with some electronic. That's not really an original idea, but I wanted to make it like a drastic difference. So I played a lot of things live in the guitars. I found this old Guiro I hadn't used in a long time. That was kind of fun.
Okay, that's cool.
There's a lot of little things in my studio that I pulled out for that.
Wow, great. That's awesome.
Just to keep it organic.
And is that something that you do as a rule? You try to bring some live instruments in to your work?
I do. If the live instruments that I play work in the music, so like for Vesper, there's really not much that I could do for that because it was all pretty much orchestral. But I love to try to bring in real instruments if possible.
Cool.
But I'm limited because I'm mostly a drummer. That's and then I play other instruments, but I'm kind of always faking. I feel like I'm faking it on everything else.
No jokes about drummers.
Yeah, please. Wait till after the call.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you, Jameson. Thanks for joining us and sharing.
But thanks
that.
for the feedback, guys. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Worries.
All right, Stefan, two more, is it? Yeah, two more.
Two more, yeah. So
Okay.
we've got next one, Ron Lobo, and Ron seems to be with us as well, actually. So let me share.
Where's Ron? Where's Ron?
He seems to be there somewhere.
Oh yeah, there he is. Hi, Ron.
Right. Okay. Here we go.
Ah, the big city with its irresistible allure. The siren song we call opportunity. Where there's opportunity, there's competition. Where there's competition, there are winners and there are losers. The winners create the losers, and the losers create the winners in the great dance of the dollar. A miserable merry-go-round that binds us all, but nobody acknowledges. The hidden game where everybody is a player. Enter our hero, Greg. Greg's a winner. In his own world, he's a hero. Heck, he's got the penthouse, the car, the gold-plated, handmade Belgian import bespoke bidet to prove it. Friends? Leisure time? A conscience? Who needs it, right, Greg? Those things are for losers. Those things are for the rest of us. Well, Greg, old buddy, the times are changing. The ordinary folks, the ones at the bottom, those losers you like to talk about, they've had enough and they're taking charge. So enjoy your bidet while you can. Measuring success in dollars and cents. Well, that, I'm afraid, is, as they say, for the birds.
Awesome.
Okay. Again, I thought this was really well put together. A nice kind of slightly jazzy, kind of Latin flavour to it, which I think suited the subject matter quite well. As music, I thought this was really interesting and quite vivid, actually, and quite evocative. As film music, sometimes it was a little bit distracting because the very distinct rhythm of your music would occasionally get in the way of the natural rhythm of the film, and sometimes there were a few clashes there. There were definitely some clashes between the music and the music as part of the soundtrack, the game little bits, the game snippets. Again, very difficult to write for. So that could have been possibly a little bit differently handled. Also, you seem to write quite a lot of the music across a lot of the hit points. And I think because your music was motoring on so well and it had this real sense of style and panache, it's actually quite difficult to break into that and address some of the hit points. So I think maybe by writing such a kind of piece of music as you did, you kind of didn't leave it very easy for yourself to address the hit points. But the music was very good as music. In terms of supporting the narrative, it tended to sometimes dominate too much. But these are the kind of problems you get when you're writing for these kind of films. But really well done, yeah. Stefan?
Yeah, similar. Yeah, it's really similar. I really like this. I thought as a piece of music, it was brilliant. And I got really kind of absorbed by the piece of music, actually. But as Brian says, one of the things that it did on occasion feel quite separate from the film, and it felt like, you would probably sort of you were so into creating that piece of music because, and Brian used the words panache, I thought absolutely, because it had some great touches and that whole Latin stuff, and the use of the brushes, because it was so percussive, I thought was great little touch. And you put actually in, I think you called the whole thing, you called it your comedy composition submission, so you wanted to bring out some humour in this, and I thought, and there was, I thought that worked. I think perhaps I mean, you got some of the drops in there. We're fine, but I just think because there's so many kind of like edits and cuts and stuff in this film, it just needed to be that bit sort of tighter. So I think there was the danger of it sort of squashing down the tempo and the rhythm. But as a piece of music and the way it was produced, I thought it was, some real quality work here. Very, very well produced and a real energetic element to it that I brought out a lot. And I just think with a bit more craft and shape to the edit and to the voiceover, then you would have something that's kind of really, really strong here and would actually qualify as that comedy composition submission. So very well done, Ron. I very much enjoyed it.
Thank you, Ron, for submitting. Ron, would you like to respond? You don't have to. Can you hear me?
I'm not sure. Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for the nice words. And yeah, in the beginning, because I saw the New York scene, I felt about like, I mean, do something jazzy here, right?
Yeah.
And then I thought about take 5, like the groove, the drum. And it's in 5/4. It ended up being challenging because it became like a tango in 5/4. So as I tried to set the tone with all the hits and all the noises, sometimes I felt like, man, this is gonna be hard, especially when the words come and chun chun. I'm trying to hit everything, but I tried at least to have a composition going, like a melody, something that makes sense musically. But yes, I think to make it work really nicely with the movie, I would need to maybe, adapt a few things here and there and cut a few sounds or something. But it was fun. It was fun in the end because I thought the biggest challenge with this one was having the voiceover, like constantly. The guy is talking non-stop. And then to make this work with music and not just not to become just a background thing, but have an idea, go along with all the voice. It was really challenging.
That was the main thing that was really difficult, especially because you made it so percussive driven. Yeah. Trying to make that sit with a voice was, you were definitely up against it, but it was I thought it worked. There was elements of this that worked very well, actually. So well done.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Ron.
So we have one last one. We have Stephen Burgess-Wild.
Stephen Burgess-Wild. Okay.
The big city with its irresistible allure. The siren song we call opportunity. Where there's opportunity, there's competition. Where there's competition, there are winners and there are losers. The winners create the losers, and the losers create the winners in the great dance of the dollar. A miserable merry-go-round that binds us all, but nobody acknowledges. The hidden game where everybody is a player. Enter our hero, Greg. Greg's a winner. In his own world, he's a hero. Heck, he's got the penthouse, the car, the gold-plated, handmade Belgian import bespoke bidet to prove it. Friends? Leisure time? A conscience? Who needs it, right, Greg? Those things are for losers. Those things are for the rest of us. Well, Greg, old buddy, the times are changing. The ordinary folks, the ones at the bottom, those losers you like to talk about, they've had enough and they're taking charge. So enjoy your bidet while you can. Measuring success in dollars and cents, well, that, I'm afraid, is, as they say, for the birds.
Okay, right. Again, musically, I thought this was really good. I mean, really, like, completely alive, full of beans, and just really, really exciting from beginning to end, really. Some really nice chords and a generally exciting piece. The piece definitely supports the subtext of the film, of the clip. The music definitely addresses all the kind of things in the film from a subtext point of view. The only problem is that quite a few times the music tends to dominate the clip, and it dominates the narration sometimes. Some great chords, some really truly great chord sequences, but sometimes they don't always work as well as they could. For example, this kind of frantic walking bass thing you had going on the jazz piano, and these really great trumpet fall-offs. I mean, all great big band writing, but it's so difficult for a film like this to absorb those kind of dynamics and those kind of stylistics, especially when the film's got its own rhythm and it's got its own sound with these little game cards and stuff like that. So the brass fall-offs and the sax stuff was excellent. The mix between the on-screen sounds and your music, again, was a bit problematic in places. Also, some of the brass phrasing seemed to be a little bit off. I don't know whether that's because it had difficulty in sitting with the film sounds, or that's because it was slightly off in the mix itself. Great ending. Again, there's no dialogue there to kind of get in your way. The way you brought the music to a close, really good. On the end credits, the music was alone, so I was able to listen to it more intently. There are a few issues, like I said before, with timing and a few phrases which seem to kind of slightly trip over each other. But a really great piece of music, just needs to be slightly better executed and certainly better applied to the film. So yeah, but good piece of music, yeah. Great, over to you, Steph.
Yeah, similar. I thought as a piece of music it was great. I was totally convinced because, and I put in when I was making some notes on it, that your notes just said big city vibe, and I was like, actually, if that was your vision for it, absolutely, it all fitted really well. And Brian said this just now as well. It's that actually, in terms of subject matter, in terms of the narrative, it does fit really well. I think the problem is getting it to sit with the film. I mean, lots of it do fit really well, but from a kind of conceptual idea, but actually because of the voice and there's so much movement and there's kind of drums and the piano and the jazz, it can all be like quite frantic, and the voiceover's doing its own thing, the editing's doing its own thing. So that, I suppose that's the issue to it. But as a piece of music, I thought, wow, this was really impressive and executed actually very well in terms of the production and stuff. I mean, I think it does demonstrate your vision as a composer, and to some extent film scoring, because I think you did look at the narrative and think, I think this could definitely work. But it's actually when we talked about this in the masterclass last week, it's the craft of it, getting it to actually sit within the picture. There's so many different elements to film music. Writing one thing, but getting it to actually then fit in the architecture and in all the edits and all the rest of it. It's so difficult to do, and so there's a bit of work to do on that. But I thought as a piece of music and a concept, great, and absolutely big city vibe. I got it straight away, so well done.
There's one little thing I forgot to mention, actually, just Steph reminded me a little bit, that when I first heard this, it kind of reminded me a bit of library music, because I was thinking, if this was library music, that would explain it, because with library music, it's music which is not bespoke to the scene. It's music which is written blind, and then it's applied by an editor. And what they would notoriously do in this situation is they would duck those.
Now or forever hold your peace. Anybody? The floor is yours. The floor is yours. No? Well, it's been a great session, and there are a couple of little bits of YouTube housekeeping to do, exciting bits. We have let's do the prize draw first for the sample library. just to keep the suspense, just to keep you all in suspense.
That was your intro music. There you go.
So we have the wheel here with all the submittors, and I shall give it a spin, and we'll see who's going to win the sample library from Fracture Sounds. Look at it go. Oh, that was close. Alejandro Paris, congratulations. You have won a sample library from I almost said Spitfire, Fracture Sounds.
Brilliant.
So have a look at the Fracture Sounds website and choose the library that you would like, anything apart from a bundle. And I'll be in touch with you anyway, and we'll sort that out for you. And if any of our previous winners of these libraries want to reach out and let us know how you've got on and what you've done with the library, that would be lovely. I say it every month and nobody ever contacts me, but I'm an eternal optimist. And so, I think over to you, Brian and Stefan, to announce the who's going to receive the string quartet session this time.
Stefan, do you want to do it?
Yeah, okay, right. So Brian and I obviously discussed it at length, and again, well done to everyone, and for submitting. Difficult one to do, and we enjoyed listening to all of them. So well done to everyone. But we've decided to go with Kate on this one. Well done, Kate.
Well done, Kate.
Thank you so much. Can't believe it as well.
It was great piece. So very well done.
Start writing those string pieces.
Yeah.
So I'll get in touch, but you'll have a bit of time to get ready for it. Where are you based, actually?
Weymouth. In Dorset.
Weymouth. Oh, crikey! I was going to say if you're close to Manchester, you could go to the session, but it's quite a trek from Weymouth.
I might come up anyway.
Yeah, I mean that could be doable. Certainly, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the planet. So. Although it's close. All right, brilliant. Well, congrats on that. And have some fun with that. And thanks to everybody else. I hope it's been useful. I'll send out that written feedback soon, within the next week. It takes quite a while to compile it, but I will get that out this week. And just to remind everyone that we have a challenge, if you like, or an opportunity at the moment, which is to choose any of the films in our library. That's over 40 films, and submit up to 3 minutes of music for this feedback and review session, and also the opportunity to win the string quartet and a Fracture Sounds library. So that will close on the 14th of July. So we have over 2 weeks left to receive your submissions for that. So good luck, everyone. I hope that today's feedback and everything has inspired and given you more ideas. And we'll see you in a few weeks' time. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
See you later, bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.